Board, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you all this morning, and I'm so glad that so many of you have joined us. Since we met a year ago at last year's conference, so much has happened that adds urgency to the work that all of you do. We've seen sustainability challenges escalate, and in turn, we need to escalate our responses and our efforts to get investors, companies, and policymakers to respond to these critical issues that we're facing. The challenges of climate change are real. Last year, we witnessed Hurricane Sandy, which rocked the northeastern seaboard and literally brought commerce to a standstill as the driving wind and the rain and the surging seas forced the New York Stock Exchange to suspend business for several days. The storm wrought havoc on communities, on individuals, and businesses of all sizes, and really drove home the interplay among environmental, social, and economic impacts. In addition, last year, much of the country experienced a brutal drought. And on top of that, that was compounded by yet another year of record high temperatures. The drought last year in America may be the first widespread aha moment around the climate change era. Suddenly, it wasn't remote ice caps melting, polar bears and abstract climate theories. It was the nation's food supply, the fabric of our financial system, all under siege. And finally, people were starting to connect the dots. So this last year has truly reinforced the need for all of us to come together and address these challenges with new urgency, and that's what this conference is all about. As series co-chair, I've experienced firsthand the unique work of series, the work that truly leverages the power of major capital market players, many of you are here today, to accelerate the realization of a more sustainable global economy. And that's really the beauty of this series model. It brings together the smartest innovators from across the country to integrate sustainability into the DNA of our capital market system. In addition to my role at Ceres, I am also here today as an institutional investor at the California Public Employees Retirement System, or CalPERS as we're more commonly known. We're responsible for safeguarding the retirement security of 1.6 million public employees here in California. To meet this mission, we're stewards of a trust fund with assets of about $260 billion. At CalPERS, we see sustainability in its simplest form as the ability to prosper. Sustainability is at the heart of what we do. Sustainability of the pension system, sustainability of the underlying investments, and sustainability of the companies in which we invest. Today, that means that we have to understand how issues such as climate change, energy needs, water availability, and global supply chains affect our portfolio and our duty to ensure the integrity and the soundness of the trust fund for many, many generations to come. And Ceres has been invaluable in helping us to meet that goal. So what I wanted to do is give you some examples of that, and I want to talk about 3 Ceres initiatives that we've been involved in at CalPERS. So first, company engagement. At CalPERS, we want to invest in companies that are well-governed and well-managed. And thus, good governance demands that material, environmental, and social issues be considered. Lance mentioned the Ceres roadmap to sustainability. We use that as a guide in our engagements with companies, and we regularly engage our portfolio companies on these issues. For example, following the 2010 Deepwater Horizon tragedy in the Gulf, we engaged BP to figure out what had gone wrong and what changes were needed in the company's structure and management systems. As a result of our dialogue with BP's board, the company has introduced enhanced drilling standards And it also established a new safety and operational risk organization that's responsible for auditing global standards, including environmental risk. 3 years ago, we were concerned by the Massey Energy mining disaster in West Virginia. Among the issues that emerged in the wake of the tragedy was the lack of accountability of their board to the owners. Following that engagement, Massey established a separate safety and environmental committee made up entirely of independent directors, which is a very important governance move. More recently, following an extensive engagement with Chesapeake Energy, that company issued its first sustainability report, and in addition, it also agreed to change its board's nominating committee charter to address diversity and sustainability issues. To further inform this work that we do at CalPERS, we recently commissioned the University of California at Davis to examine the academic evidence of the impact of sustainability factors on long-term value creation. The results of this work will be presented to our board and then publicly in June of this year. A second important series initiative is the continued work on the Global Reporting Initiative. We all call that the GRI. Many of you here are investors, and as investors, it's critical that we conduct due diligence on our investments. And disclosure by companies is a big part of that puzzle for us. That's why we support at CalPERS the goal of integrated reporting on material sustainability factors. The old adage, what gets measured gets managed, is exactly right. And it's remarkable that the GRI, which Ceres helped launch, is now being used by over 3,000 companies worldwide. And while Ceres and investors continue to strengthen that reporting, we also recognize that it's important to work on system-wide issues. And that brings me to the third Ceres initiative I wanted to talk about, which is the work that Ceres is doing with stock exchanges. Ceres is part of a movement to request the global stock exchanges to require listed companies to disclose information about their sustainability risks and strategies. We're partnering with leading investors, with NASDAQ and others, to develop a model listing standard that would define in clear terms the types of sustainability disclosure that companies would have to provide. A draft of this language was released for public comment last month. You may have heard about it. And in October, the final language will be presented to the World Federation of Exchanges. If we're successful in getting all the world's stock exchanges to adopt this standard, it would be a huge, huge step towards embedding sustainability into the core fabric of the global economy. So this is a very exciting project. If you want to learn more about it, NASDAQ will be hosting a discussion this afternoon at the Intersect Media Lounge that Lance mentioned earlier. I'd like to turn now to the very important work that Ceres is doing on the policy front. 3 weeks ago, Ceres and its business network, BICEP, Business for Innovation, Climate and Energy Policy, brought dozens of companies to Washington with a clear message for policymakers, and a message that has not often been heard in the halls of Congress. And that message was, tackling climate change is one of the biggest economic opportunities of the 21st century. That statement is the core of the Climate Declaration, which was a document signed by 33 major American businesses who feel that the old paradigm of it's the environment or the economy, pick one, is false. The Declaration signatories represent numerous business sectors, including insurers, home builders, apparel, IT, and the outdoor industries, who also provide 475,000 jobs. Well, that's a powerful message for Congress. So instead of me telling you why these companies signed the Declaration, I'm going to let you tell them themselves.
The policies that we need to combat climate change are already the best practices in corporate America. So today, we're here in Washington, D.C. because we deserve legislators' attention.
There are business examples here of telling us how to do it. Clearly, the leading indicator is the business practices of all those who courageously stood up and said, this is simply the right thing to do.
We really feel it's important to be part of a broader coalition of like-minded businesses who are together trying to create change.
If small-sized companies of all different product makes and consumer interests can do it, everybody else should. We just need to create those guardrails.
We all know what the end point is. It's a reduction in carbon emissions, and it's blazing the path for companies to innovate.
Our hope in signing the declaration is really to demonstrate business supports climate change policy.
Aspen Ski Company joined the climate declaration because if there's an industry that ought to care about climate change, it's the ski industry.
We've signed the climate declaration because while we are working hard through our operations and supply chain to minimize our impact, we understand that we can't do it alone.
To have influence beyond our size, we need to be linking arms with other organizations and other businesses.
We have real challenges that demand action. And we believe that meeting those challenges is part of our responsibility as a corporate citizen, but we also believe and have evidence that it is smart business.
So we're excited that we can talk about how we can get the commerce behind something that we've been working towards sort of on an individual basis.
By supporting the declaration, we can be an advocate for the United States, leading and benefiting from the economic growth that comes from green technology and tackling climate change.
In order to get to our larger goals, which is to become a climate positive organization, we need legislative reform.
We have to take the next step and demonstrate to consumers, demonstrate to voters, demonstrate to decision makers that we need comprehensive climate and energy legislation.
We're calling not only for policymakers to heed this call to action, but also for other businesses to join him over the course of an ongoing campaign.
Aspen Ski Company signed the climate declaration.
The Portland Trailblazers signed the declaration.
Eileen Fisher signed the climate declaration.
Stonyfield Farms signed the climate declaration.
Seventh Generation signed the climate declaration.
Ben & Jerry's signed the climate declaration.
CA Technologies signed the climate declaration. You can too.